Rick Without the K James presents, in my opinion, podcast.
Welcome back to episode 7. We're going to be talking about some racism. We're going to get a little deep on a few things. And I wanted to start off with, I'm going to start off with you, Greg. The symbol that you hear, BLM. I want you to explain to me what that means to you, how you interpret that, and the Black Lives Matter movement.
It's a couple things. Black Lives Matter means just matter, like Michael Che went to. We matter. White people matter. Let's say Jewish people, Mexican, everybody matters. But we as Black people, whether you've seen it on the news or we're experiencing it personally, we're 13% of the population, but 40% in jail. You talk to us, maybe, all right, if we compared all 5 of our stories over our lives of being pulled over by the police, probably 2 people at this table have gotten approached or stopped by the police more, right? Maybe not more. Rick may have, you know what I'm saying? Like, just off of looks. Just off of looks. And then we even look at, and then what it is that we get just looked at as, we're thugs, criminals, all those words that people use toward us when people don't get to know us. So people already automatically assuming that George Floyd committed whatever crime he was accused of. Forgery with, a fake $20 bill. It wasn't proven. There was no judge there that said, boom, this was a fake, bill.
Guilty.
But he got murdered by a guy who was exerting his power and putting his hands in his pocket. I'm more of a show of dominance than you have. Put your knee on somebody's neck and do that.
Casually.
Right. So Black Lives Matter basically was just trying to tell the world that we matter. Like, we're being attacked. This hasn't stopped since we came here 400 years ago. And a lot of people are not getting it. I know we were talking off camera about having uncomfortable conversations with friends. I'm the only black person on my job. Some white people get it, some don't. They go into why is he, why don't they just stop breaking the law? Or why don't they stop, speeding or this and that? I got accused of breaking into my own car one night. Like, walking to my car, clicking the clicker, and a lady accused me of breaking into my car. Are you breaking in this car? And I went, click, click. And a cop pulls up at that moment, has his hand on his gun, and it's a situation right there. And I could have died getting in my own car, right?
Yeah.
So it's a scary thing out there that a lot of people don't understand. Why? Because it doesn't affect them.
And I think that's the greatest point. A good friend of mine, his name's Leroy, and it was really funny. I was talking to him just recently, about 10 days ago, and we were having some in-depth conversations that we've never had. Mm-hmm. And I was asking him what some people might consider some stupid questions. And I was asking him about, are you really scared when you go out that a cop's gonna pull you over for just no freaking reason? And he says, no, you know what scares me now? And I said, what? He goes, when my son leaves. And it kind of broke my heart. I never had really thought of it that way. And he told me, Ronnie, every time my kid goes out, I'm thinking, how's he acting when he's getting pulled over? Is he gonna find that dick in the group, And how's it gonna be handled? He says, because he's a young kid. What happens if he goes out drinking with some friends and he's, being a little loud and obnoxious or something? He finds some buddy who's not, considers that disrespect, or someone who uses that as like a branch to push. And it really kind of shocked me because I had never really viewed it from that standpoint. That this dad is sitting at home every time his son leaves. What the fuck's gonna happen?
They have daughters. Chris and I have daughters.
Yeah.
We have to worry about our daughters.
Right.
Going out.
But what I'm saying, you were talking about it not affecting people. I never worried about that when my daughter went out. I worried about my daughter getting in a wreck. I worried about her being stupid, and not driving right. But I never worried about her getting pulled over and stuff like that. So when you say that a lot of people don't think of it because it don't affect us, that hits home with me. And I believe it's a very true statement. Up until this Floyd thing started, and it started making people have conversations with their friends, open their eyes about things that I wouldn't open my eyes about that before. I never realized when your daughter went out, you were sitting at home worried to death. I never That never dawned on me. So I want your take on the BLM also, the way you view it, how you look at it. Does it mean anything different to you?
So many thoughts.
Well, please share.
Greg touched on a lot of it. It's, wow. How do you describe something that is your life? You know, how do you put something into words that is basically saying, I am important, I exist, I deserve the right to live without these added issues. Like, yeah, we all got life problems, you know. We all wake up not maybe happy with our body. We all go to work, we have a bad day. All these things happen, but imagine adding having a bad day. Now I gotta get in my car and worry about, is the police gonna kill me? Because I had a bad day, he had a bad day, but only one of us is walking away from this bad day. Black Lives Matter is not saying no other lives matter. It's just basically saying, hey, our lives matter also. And I think the issue is that if you can say all lives matter, then you should damn well be able to say Black Lives Matter, because if you really look at the scope, Black Lives Matter fits right in there. So if I say Black Lives Matter, you should say Black Lives Matter. And we can talk about it, and we can both be on that same page. It's almost like you're asking somebody to see you as a human, and they're like, nah. Hey, I'm human. Nah, you're not. And then that's when we talk about the kids. You know, your friend says kids, and it's like you talked about your daughter and how Hillary made you so mad with what she did for your daughter. And I sit and I look at the world that I'm releasing my 15-year-old daughter into now, and I'm almost certain that I'm about to keep her in the fucking house. I can't. How do I do this? How do I tell her, not only are you a black woman, but you live, you know what I mean? It's you know what I mean? So Black Lives Matter means so much more now than it ever did. And I think what happened, like you said, you saw it. You finally saw it because there's nothing else to see. There's no sports to distract you. There's no going to a party to distract you. There's nothing to distract you but the fucking reality that we've been facing for years. And it's so... I'm relieved that it's happening like this now, but I'm also so frustrated that it took this long for people to actually see it. And it's still, like you said, we have retaliation right now. Jack Johnson won the heavyweight world championship on July 4th. I believe it was 1921 or 20. I can't remember the exact date, but it was July 4th. I know that. He won that by beating a white heavyweight. The next day, I think they said over 100,000 black people throughout the United States were assaulted and killed because Jack Johnson won. White supremacy is fighting to hold on. And this is what happens when people are trying to hold on to something that they're scared to let go of. You know, you send your daughter to college. You knew you had to let her go, but it was like, I don't want to let you go, but I gotta let you go. But white people are like, no, I'm not letting this go, because when you've been classized, and that's why I feel white people need to understand classism. You've been taught classism, so you don't see racism. You don't even see it. It's not there. You think it's all about money when it is, but imagine it being about money and race. You don't see it. So right now at this moment in time, Black Lives Matters means more than anything we've ever said in our lives regarding race.
I was talking to Rick, and I was saying one of the things the other morning, it was yesterday morning, one of the things that really bothered me was I was sitting down trying to think about this, and we were talking about topics. And one of the things, like, just take Greg for example. I look at Greg, I see this big, proud man, served in the military, he's a nurse now, takes care of children. Why the fuck should he have to ask for respect? Why should he have to ask to be equal? And remember me saying that, and I kind of was shocked that, you know, because this kind of never really dawned on me before until everyone started having these topics. It's like women's right to vote. Why didn't they always have a right to vote? You know, it's ridiculous that they had to fight just to be able to vote. And so, to me, I find it the same thing. Is like, I mean, I couldn't imagine it as a man. Like, I've never been black. I'm not saying that sarcastically. I've never walked in your shoes. I've never done anything like that. So to have to stand up and to ask to be treated right, to be asked to be treated with respect, I can understand. And that's the only way I can really put myself in it.
And that's how you need to do it. Put yourself there.
Right. What would it be like to me to say, you know, because I've been in jobs where someone's treated better than me. Imagine if your whole life was like that. You know, which is basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah, imagine seeing people protest with full automatic weapons and police have complete composure. And then one black man with a supposed $20 bill gets beaten as if he has stolen their child's, innocence. It's just, it's frustrating. Because, like, for instance, we're talking about the Aunt Jemima thing. And a lot of white people don't understand how that's racist. But they don't understand when you talk about, as a man, asking for someone to respect me. Back in those days, instead of calling a black man or black woman Mr. or Mrs., they called him uncle and auntie. That was a way of saying, I don't have to respect you, even though you're older than me. You're uncle auntie, you're just an uncle auntie. So when you see Aunt Jemima, you're not seeing them pay respect to this black woman who came out of slavery. You're seeing them say, this is what white people are comfortable with seeing black people as: servants, aunts, uncles. It's ingrained. And I say this to the reason why people are so against BLM is that racism is so American that when you protest racism, people say you're protesting America. That's where we're at.
I think about two of the most injustices I've ever seen. I just, over the years, some things that stood out to me, and it just really like Sidney Poitier. He was the first black man to ever win an Oscar. When he stepped off the stage, the first thing that was asked to him is, how does it feel to win an Oscar as a Negro? Mm-hmm. And then, yes, and I'm like, really? That person should be shot, right? And so, I'm an American Indian. I'm a very proud American Indian. That's why I don't support the Washington Redskins.
American Indian too.
I think it's disrespectful for them. There was a baseball league, 40, 50 years ago, in the 60s, right? The Negro League.
Was it 60s?
50s or 60s?
Well, it was the 40s, because
was it that?
Before Jackie Robinson, basically.
But and that was 58, right? 50, I think, something like that.
42.
Was it that long ago?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
My mom was born here.
So when you see the tragedies that have been ingrained like that, and it's just like, wow. And now, can you touch on the Aunt Jemima syrup thing? Because that's a question I kept reading all over Facebook.
Yeah.
Because I grew up eating it. I never looked at it and thought any racial things about it. I just thought that's a damn good syrup, right? So how is it a racial, is it actually something that bothers you?
Imagery. It bothers me because it's an imagery thing. And that's the thing that this country is big on, imagery. You've been in the military, it's all about the image. Your gig line has, it's an image. Everything's about image. And when you present an image of a certain group of people in only one light, either criminals, servants, uneducated, beneath what society says is acceptable, then that's how the other ones will be treated. You didn't see anything racist, but subconsciously, you might see a black woman and she says something to you mean, you can say, shut up, Aunt Jemima. Because it's just something in your head that you saw. You remember, Aunt Jemima was black, this one was black, she pissed me off, Aunt Jemima. You know what I mean? It becomes a racial. So I've heard it used hundreds of times by white women trying to down talk black people, black women calling them Aunt Jemima, and now they're mad because they're being called Karen.
How about your take on the Aunt Jemima situation?
Aunt Jemima, pretty much the same thing Chris was saying. It's something that we see it and we get mad every day. It's just like seeing blackface characters or anything like that. It annoys us, but we couldn't do anything about it. It just wasn't the time at the time to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like the Redskins. It took this long for people to even try to have that name taken away, even though Snyder's still being a butthole about it, like taking the name away. But we wouldn't name a team the Wetbacks or the N-word.
Whoa.
You know what I'm saying? Right, you know what I'm saying?
My back's hot right now.
We wouldn't name a team. So Redskins was a derogatory term. You know what I'm saying? So going back to what you said, I know I jumped like 3-4 subjects already, but I don't know. It's just tough.
If you guys want to talk at any point in time, feel free to jump in.
So with me being at work, whatever, some of my friends that are in real estate kind of blew me away when they told me that the term master bedroom is no longer allowed. Because it goes to, now I said, well, what the heck do you call it? He said a primary bedroom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, because of everything that's going on, they can no longer call it the master bedroom. Like, that's the master's room, like.
The thing is,
You know, so now it's called the primary bedroom.
America,
That's
the Americans
crazy.
don't
And
even know.
we don't even, when I think
That
about
stuff
it,
never enters our mind, no.
You don't even know how much racism has been normalized, and
Yeah.
we see stuff every day, and we don't
Yeah.
even trip that this was created out of racism.
Yeah.
It's just a song we sang to kids.
I did want
Catch
to
a
ask.
tiger by the toe.
I did want to ask both of you about, because you're in your 40s, you're 50 now, right? So, do you feel that racism is changing from when you were a kid to now having your own kids? Has it gotten any better? Because most white people think, oh, racism, and could tell this George Floyd shit. They're like, oh, it's you know.
Where you want to go?
So and
that's
I-
true.
let me
You were
point
my
out-
eldest.
Let me point out to the viewers too. Let me point out to the viewers too is you guys' backgrounds. Is you're from the South. You grew up in North Carolina. So your view of being black is totally different from Chris's, who grew up in the Bay Area and is a little more diverse. And he's probably seen gentrification of his area. You know what I mean? So I just want to give that to my viewers to let you guys know, and I'll let you take it from here, Greg. Do you feel that racism has changed for you and your kids?
The only way it's changed is just more hidden how they present it. Back, my grandfather was the first black cop in the state of Virginia, first black cop. He was called nigger, he was told he couldn't arrest white people, he couldn't go in restaurants and use the bathroom. Cop, full uniform and everything. Would be, have piss thrown on him, eggs, all of that. So you go to me, fast forward to 1998, I'm a new nurse, fresh out of nursing school, and I hear people say things in the back, but they can't say it to my face. So I get treated differently, you know what I'm saying? I get hazed to where orientation is 16 weeks. The other 9 white nurses I start with, they go through, people are treating them easily, you know, they're like being patient because we're new. Anything you're new at, you're not gonna be great at, but for me, it was hurry up, you know, you're not moving fast enough, putting unreasonable assignments on me, but I wouldn't give up. They made me do orientation half of it over again, because I wasn't good enough, right? So it's just hidden now how they're coming at us. There's police brutality, there's judges, you know what I'm saying? I had a judge one time, this was when my daughter was still paying child support for my daughter. I go to have a lesson, right? Because at the time, they were still counting her daycare into the mix. Of course, she was in school, so forth. So I go to the judge, you know what I'm saying, hey, you know, we'll get my support reduced. The guy looks at me and goes, oh, you know, Obama said the economy's doing great and this and that. And I was making a ton of overtime at the time, but overtime's not guaranteed. So he looked at me and said, oh, our president said it's okay, so you can just keep making overtime. And he, you know, why are you bringing up Obama when I'm in court about my kid? You know what I'm saying? That's just like if I go into court now, somebody's screaming about Trump about something. The president has nothing to do with it.
And the funny situation in that is, I think a lot of fathers' feelings would fall in that. But if I went, I don't see him bringing up Trump to me.
No.
I don't see him going, oh, well, Trump's, to me, it's almost like he was throwing that in your face.
He was. Oh, he was.
Yeah, so,
He was. He just, because he definitely just dismissed me, even though I met the qualifications to have this lower. You know what I'm saying? But he saw me, and you know, I'm gonna go there, like, I'm, you know, educated, and really not got in trouble like that. I think I present myself well, all these things, ex-military, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about none of that on the resume. All my thing is I wanted to be treated equally. But all he saw was that anger that he had on Obama. He put it on me.
Yep. It's still, I have a joke where I say the only thing white people ever seasoned is racism. And that's because you go around this country, they have their own little variations of racism. Greg, he's from the South. He's from that real down south barbecue country racism that's not to be played with. I'm from this avocado green tea ass racism where they, you know, a girl will like you, but she can't take you home because her daddy doesn't like black people. Now, he don't know why he don't like black people, he just don't like, you know, it's like you said, it's more mass. They've learned to code it. It's like, like you said, when you were a nurse, when you first started, you weren't good at it, you got better. White people have gotten way better at racism. They've gotten better at coding it, hiding it, putting it in plain sight to where if I say that's racist, that syrup bottle's racist, they're like, you're fucking tripping. It's a syrup bottle. How is that racist? You know what I mean? And it becomes a point where Now I'm fighting two battles. I'm fighting the racism, then I'm fighting to get people to see the racism so they can help me fight the racism. You know, and it's frustrating. So we get to a point where we disengage, and then they come find us and say, well, you guys can't do that. That's discrimination. What? You didn't want us over there. Now we over here, but you want to come over here and gentrify us out? Now we can't live here. All right, where we go now? You know?
And it's hilarious how different he was bringing it up about your both of your background. I was born in Tracy, California, and I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but I think it feels like it has a lot to do with why we're so different. Is I didn't see my first black person until I was in second grade. When I went to school, you know, with a guy. That's the first time I mean I had been around nothing but white people. So in Tracy, California, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tracy, but when you go back to like 67 to the early 70s when I was born, you didn't see a lot of dark skin, not even a lot of Mexicans too much back then.
And that's called redlining.
It was almost like, what's it called?
Redlining.
What does that mean?
That basically means banks will not give loans to people of color to keep certain neighborhoods a certain way. In Oakland, there's a place called Piedmont.
I've heard of it.
If you drive through Piedmont, there's columns that stand at every street that go into Piedmont. These columns were racial barriers. These were the columns that let real estate people know and black people know you're not living up here.
Really?
And if you go look on most of these home deeds and stuff in those areas, it clearly says no Negro, Asian, or Jew can live here.
Are you being
And
serious?
it's still
on actual?
Still on there. You have to pay money to get that removed off of your house deed.
Wow.
And it does get removed. They just add an amendment to your house deed. So it's still in there. It says, me and Greg can't go live in that neighborhood. Even though we can, if we have the money now. But if they can't, it's redlining. Tracy was kept a certain way. Tracy was white because of white flight. When those ports in Oakland opened and all those black people from the South came up here to get those jobs, white people said, you know what, we don't want to live around here. Let's push out. So then you get Walnut Creek, Livermore, Concord, all that stuff that connects the Bay Area to here, you get all that.
See, now me being a young kid, though, I never noticed any of this. I never even heard of that. I swear to God,
It's
never.
not meant for you to know. It's hidden in plain sight. That's exactly what they
Hidden
want.
in plain sight.
And that's why
Wow.
when someone comes to you and says, "Hey, Black Lives Matter," you're like, "Well, why?" Because it's been hidden such in plain sight that you don't see it. It's like you ask fish, do they see water? Fish don't see water. Fish they're living in it.
I love that.
Fish you don't see air. You don't see the air. You just breathe it in. So it's all there.
I feel like I should just move out of the motherfucking camera that you guys
Well,
talk.
to me,
You have a lot of good valiant trees.
No,
you know that.
that's
You know,
alright,
what's funny-
man. I appreciate
What's funny
it.
for me is
Yeah,
that
but
like I kind of had a falling out with a connected relative of mine, and when you had said about all lives matter, you know, then that should kind of go into, you know, the Black Lives Matter. Yes, I stand up for everybody. You know what I mean? Like I'm mixed. My kids are all this stuff, and so I felt like, okay, I love people, so for me it was everything, and I was uneducated about a lot of things, and right now I feel like being sitting here with you gentlemen, I've been educated on a lot of things, and it's just like, wow, you know what I mean, like those are things I never knew, and the whole syrup bottle thing, like, I was like, it's a syrup bottle, you know what I mean, and then when my real estate friend was throwing that master, I was like, you know what, and like you said, it's hidden stuff, so when you use that metaphor, fish don't see water, it's true, you know, because it's hidden, you know, we don't see those things, we've been so, yeah, and so like now that you're pointing out like the whole real estate thing and all this other stuff, you know, like it's like, damn, I never knew, so now that I'm being educated on it, it's like, you know, it's kind of changed my perception on things, you know, it's just like, wow.
that's like my good friend was telling me, when we were talking about his child, one of the things he told me, he says is, you know, there's a lot of people out there that aren't racist. Mm-hmm. But they don't speak, and it's just as bad almost. And see, I never could get that. How if I'm not putting you guys below me or anything like that. I never look at someone and go, oh, they're black, I'd rather have this white. I never do anything like that. Mm-hmm. But by not, I guess in a way, by not acknowledging that you've went through this, or not saying, hey, you know what, they have went through this, let's stand with them. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's, you know, I don't know how to put it. I'm not ignoring it, but maybe it's the water thing. I just didn't see it before.
Yeah, it was set up for you not to see. I mean, when we say, you know, people that are not racist, here's the thing. being non-racist is not good enough anymore.
I understand that.
People have to be anti-racist. Because,
But I just recently have understood that.
and I know, and I'm glad you're here. I mean, it's a great here because here's the thing: you don't even know why you felt that way because it was ingrained in you. It's from the beginning of your life. When you watch TV for the first time and you don't trip that there's maybe one black person per 5 television shows. You don't trip that every black person you see on the TV is doing something wrong. So therefore, when you see a black person get abused by the police on TV, your mind goes back to that T.J. Hooker episode where T.J. Hooker threw that drug dealer on the ground. You're like, what? That's the drug dealer. And so it's easy to say he should have listened. He should have complied. Stop breaking the law. Because what has been set in your mind, in all of our minds, because even black people have been raised to think of ourselves as inferior. We've been taught to see ourselves as less than because of the imagery, Aunt Jemima, because of the television, because of the things we're fed every day in this country. Every white person in this country is inherently racist just by their birthright in this country. It is up to them to notice it, address it, and remove it. If they don't, they'll continue to be silent. They'll continue to allow it to happen. I've had racist things happen to me and white people come up after. I'm sorry that happened to you. Bitch, you should have said something 5 minutes ago.
Right.
When I'm in face, just screaming racist in my face, potentially getting killed.
You know one thing I can't stand about, we were talking about this too, I cannot stand about our culture right now. And to me this isn't a black or white thing, this is a damn, just, I don't know what it is. But if he was having the shit beat out of him, if you were beating the shit out of him or he were beating the shit out of you, instead of someone running up and saying, hey, stop that, they pull their camera out and start taking a picture of the damn thing.
I was just gonna touch that. Like,
And
I don't understand
I
that.
cannot stand that.
Well,
Yeah.
I think in this day and age,
That's the norm.
that's helping us.
That's the norm. Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
We're not-
I
I'm
get
I'm
what you're
not
saying.
like the whole evidence.
I feel like there needs to be somebody filming it, but there also needs somebody to step
Stop.
in.
Yep.
But
You
you know, that fourth cop in the Floyd situation that fucking stood there. That's out of the 3, that's what bothers me the most.
All you have
Him.
to do is tap dude and
He should have told that guy, it's time to stop. You've been on his neck long enough, okay?
Yep.
Because that's the thing that tears me up is there's a certain tactful way that you're supposed to take a person down. The person on the hip, I understand. The person on the foot, I understand. But the person on the neck, he was wrong. And there was one person that could have called him on it, and it was the guy that was standing there. To stand there for 8.5 minutes. What?
I think there was 3 people.
All 3.
But I do want
3, I thought there was 4.
There was 4, but 3 that should have stopped it
Yeah.
because the 4th one wasn't going to stop.
Well, what I'm saying is that the guy on the hip is doing his job.
However-
the guy on his foot's doing the job. He might not be able to see that this guy's knee is in the neck, but that one guy that was standing there, to me, he's as much his fault as
at the end
anybody.
of the day, they didn't need all 3 of them at that point. He complied.
Right.
He was in handcuffs
Yeah.
when they got him on the ground. So it's like, at what
Right.
point did they
Was he
decide
resisting?
he wasn't complying? Like, and that's another thing about being black. Our rules are way different.
Yeah.
My comply is way different than.
But the
than
cops'
white
rules
guys.
are different too, and that's where we got. You need to touch on this because this is something that
I
bothers you.
was going to
Let
talk
me
about
finish
it.
this, and then you get going. But what I'm saying is that the cops don't have, like, if I go to punch him in the jaw and I break his jaw and stuff, he can civil sue me and all that stuff. But if I'm a cop and do it, I was defending myself, I was scared of this, and I'll completely get off. There needs to be a different way that they're held. Go ahead and explain your side.
And I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I know my viewers, believe me, I'm not coming from that standpoint. But my brother and I were talking about it. My brother's an attorney. So we were talking about mens res. If you guys are familiar with that and what that is, I could bring out the definition. And he basically talked about how he feels all 4 cops are going to get off. He goes, as long as they use that in court, that's what's going to get them off.
Can you define what mens res is for
So-
those who don't know?
He texted over to me. So I'll read it word for word. Like I said, he pulled it out one of his law books.
The sad part is the cops don't have to prove that. They have to prove that they were in fear for injury, not that they actually were going to be injured. As a cop, I wouldn't have to prove that he has a gun. I'd have to prove that I thought he had a gun, or I thought he had a knife, and that is why it's terrible.
So the definition is the state of mind that the prosecution to secure a conviction must prove that the defendant had when committing the crime The mens rea for the defense is the intent to deprive the rightful owner of the property, right? Or second, to two essential elements of every crime at a common law, the other being the actus reus under the under the code requires the mens rea is expressed by the adverbs, also term, blah blah blah. So basically, what it's saying is the cops are going to be able to use the fact that the people shooting it too were causing the problem. And they were trying to bring and take control of the situation, basically.
I want to go
And
first on this.
so the people that think that they're helping them out, that's probably going to get the cops off, which is even worse. And I wanted to bring that up from the standpoint that I truly believe that, I'm not sure if all 4 will get off, but I know 3 out of 4 will, right? But I also believe, since we have 3 nurses here, I keep bringing up the point, it's the accountability on the cops. That's what people are frustrated about.
Yeah.
It's that these motherfuckers don't have to have any accountability.
That's what I was just
and
talking about.
I brought up the nursing because I say that if us as nurses are negligent in doing something, we'll get prosecuted and our asses will be in handcuffs.
You just done somebody wrong.
Because we fucking drugged somebody. We didn't read through our shit. But why don't cops have that same accountability? And shit like this needs to change because they're playing by a different rule book and shit, and that's not fair.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
where again, I'm not trying to. So that shit. So I hope when these motherfuckers get off, that people understand, because I don't want the world to get crazy, because I feel like that could ignite the fucking a war. And the one thing that I have seen lately is, and I'm kind of glad of it, you know what I'm saying? Where we talked about that last night, and everybody keeps bringing up, oh, well, MLK, he was against rioting, and I said, no, you could look at the quote. I wrote down the quote there and said that riot was the language of the unheard. To me, that speaks volumes. You know, Martin Luther King said this shit. You know what I mean? Is people don't want to fucking go and riot. They don't want to, but they're tired of being unheard.
Right.
And the fact that, like, when Ronnie King did it, it was just in Los Angeles and LA blew up. But the fact that we're rioting in Minneapolis, we're rioting fucking Atlanta, we're rioting, you know, in Oakland, we're rioting, where people are tired of that shit. And I just want to, I want to educate the viewers, and I want to educate people, like, because I don't want shit to get out of hand, but I do want things to change.
I want to go first on this. I studied criminal justice for years, and this is going back 35 years ago. And there's a certain thing in the law books called about excessive force. You have a certain amount of force that you have to overcome a force. For instance, if me and Greg got into it, I could say in court why I grabbed a chair to hit him, because of his pure size. He's probably a foot taller than me, right? Much bigger man in better shape and health. So you have a certain amount of force you can have to overcome a force, and that's from a legal standpoint. My problem that I have, that's why if a man was to break into your house, you would get off easier by shooting him than one of us would. Like, they might call Greg on it if he shot me trying to sneak in his house. They might look at Greg and go, please, Greg, you could have just punched him and knocked him down. It's the certain force it overtakes the force. And this is why I have a problem with the guy that was sitting on his neck, okay? I understand 30 seconds. I understand 60 seconds to detain him or something. But 8 minutes and something, that at some point, when did excessive force come in? And to me, that's why he's going to get it. Because it's not that because at some point in time, you know, it's like when you plan things. At some point in time, going to 9 minutes, there had to be a plan. You can't just say, oh, I had an adrenaline rush, so I just stood there in one spot on his neck for 9 minutes. That's not going to hold in court. At some point, he's going to have to justify why he didn't reevaluate his position. Because to me, especially after there was some point, you guys probably know this better than me, but there was some point where someone started yelling, he's not breathing, okay? at some point he had to reevaluate himself. So he went past excessive force. And that is why I believe he will be punished. And I even think, I hope they up it to murder 1. And the reason why is, like I said, after 8 fucking minutes, there's a time where he could reevaluate himself. Okay? There's a time where he was past excessive force. Yeah. And so, I'm like you. I don't want this to happen, but I think the other 3 are going to get off. But because of the way the laws state only.
I think they might plead.
However, the one guy that was on the neck, they should go for the jugular on him. I'm sorry, and I'm not saying that, no pun intended, about him leaning on the neck. I think they should go for it, and I think they should go for murder 1 on him. I really do.
And this also because Minneapolis is one of the only places to actually convict an officer of a wrongful murder. Yeah. But it was a black officer who killed a white woman, and he got 12 years because he was a Somalian immigrant as well. So,
and since Rick brought all this up, there's another thing I keep reading and hearing chants about. I hope I say it right. No justice, no peace. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Will you guys explain to me that? I mean, I know, but I want you to explain to how.
He's speaking for me.
You understand what I'm saying, right?
No. No justice, no peace. It's basically a way of disrupting the norm. Our norm is no justice. So if our norm is no justice, your norm will become no peace. We will block your freeway. We will give you that, because it's like giving you that little inkling of what it's like to be helpless in a situation when you know you're not doing anything wrong. You're just trying to drive home to get home from your job, and we are blocking the freeway. You're going to be pissed, oh my God, they're blocking. I'm just trying, why am I caught in this? Same way you feel when you're a black man or woman and the police are harassing you. Basically, I've been pulled over for looking at cops. I literally got pulled over going down a very narrow street doing this to make sure I didn't hit the cop car. They literally pulled me over and said I was mugging them. I was trying to start some shit. So, helpless. So yeah, if I'm helpless with the justice, you're going to be helpless with your peace. You're not going to get no sleep. You're not going to be able to do things you want to do. And the COVID thing has helped as well, because people can't do it anyway. So you have to sit here and watch our protests now.
And what I hope happens, I hope those people that are in that car, instead of thinking this is a black man blocking me, I hope they actually think, why is he doing this?
That's the big But do you think most people...
I think it's about 50-50.
It is.
I mean, that's just my opinion.
You think it's that high?
I think it is. I think
this poor Floyd guy. I mean, I think this is going to go down as one of a huge moment like Martin Luther King. I really do, because I feel like everybody's talking about it now. It's no longer Chris and Greg talking about it. It's white people talking about it. It's all kinds of other people talking about it. Did you see this guy sit on that guy's neck? It was so egregious.
Take race out, just
exactly.
Human.
Well, I told him that. I didn't even see black and white when he was doing that. I thought, and like you were talking about the people that were talking around causing shit about I was thinking, how can these people stand around and watch a fucking human being do that to another human being?
Because dehumanizing black people has been going on for so long. That is near that most people you're looking at.
Do you think it's that bad though? I mean, because I wouldn't do that if I was there. I couldn't do it.
It's that bad because if you look at the responses these people have, it's a mentality that black people are not human. Same reason why the Louisville police can go into a woman's house unannounced, unwarranted, because they thought somebody that they were looking for was there. Bust in the house, start shooting, kill her while she's asleep. Her boyfriend wakes up, legal gun owner, busts back. He gets thrown in jail for attempted murder because they said he's shot first. And that's not because that's what happened. That's because it's what the police told him.
Right.
You know, and then you got Ahmad.
We talked about this earlier. I don't know if you had stepped out or not, but cops don't have to prove they have to prove what they think or what they feel. Even if the scenario doesn't prove it, if they thought you had a gun, if they thought this, if they thought that, that's why cops are told, like when they pull you over, they never go back. And the reason why is because like there was a cop in a big fat white guy in Texas that was one of these local cops that ran things for 30 years, and he was so corrupt the way he would beat these kids and force them into admitting guilt that when they finally proved it, they had to go into jail and release like 200 people because they felt, that's how corrupt this son of a bitch was. Now, justice, no peace.
I kind of see it. Chris nailed it the way he saw it, but it's also another way. Like, we can't just have peace in our lives without justice. You know what I'm saying? I can't walk to my car, that I paid for, without some racist white chick or some racist cop pulling me over thinking I stole my car, where I have to prove, with several documents and my license and so forth that I own this car. I was in the military and attacked by people in full uniform, white guys in the truck, rebel flag, stuff thrown at me, and I'm out here protecting this country. You know what I'm saying? I put my life on the line for this country. So it definitely means what Chris means, but it also means if we could just get some justice to where these people who did what they did to Floyd or what they did to Arbery get convicted to scare other people into that. Because like with me, if I go out here and do 200 miles an hour on my car, I'm gonna get, excessive speeding, get a major fine, or have my license taken away. If that happens to you, same thing. You know what I'm saying? Why can't it be equal across the board the way we're being treated by cops? That's not equal at all. Like I said, 13% of the population, 40% in jail. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make sense. That you gonna tell me 40% of our 13% of the country are bad?
So another stupid question. I have massive respect for military, any level, any branch. You're telling me that you could dress up in full, whatever they call it, and you still didn't get the normal respect?
Yep. Ask the Tuskegee Airmen.
Wow. I was 18 years old, walking down the street, me and another black guy, full BDUs, that's what you're talking about, the fatigues, camouflage. Bottles come flying at us, right? As a truck drives off, 5 guys in it, rebel flag, they're screaming, go nigger, and all this stuff. And I'm trying to get the license plate, and there's glass in my eyes and all. And I look, and on their tag it said, we support our troops.
Oh, wow.
So I get I've read a lot of this stuff on there that just kind of like I said, I've tried to do a lot of reading so I could ask some questions about the rebel flag and all the statues that they're taking down. I want you to explain why removing these help now when that is actually history.
Will we put a statue up for Brock Turner?
Do what now?
Will we put a statue up for Brock Turner? You know who Brock Turner is?
Okay, I do not know.
Brock Turner raped a young white girl in college behind Stanford, right? Was it Stanford?
A dumpster Stanford.
And he only got time served in jail 3 months for raping this girl. It was a big story.
Okay.
Prison would ruin his life.
He raped, attacked, and all that. So all these Confederate guys and all these other people owned slaves, treated minorities like crap, Indians, and so forth. So the same way I look at us, or them erecting statues to them, is how I look at Brock Turner.
Even though they were, and once again, like he said, playing devil's advocate, even though they were erected 100 years ago or something like that?
Erected 100 years ago. That's the misconception. A lot of these Confederate statues were erected during the Civil Rights era.
Yes.
When black people started getting more rights, these people said to keep you niggas in your place and remind you where you're at.
Are you being serious?
I'm being serious.
Yes.
So these were put up in the 60s as a retaliation?
These monuments are maybe a little bit older than everybody in this room. Maybe. A little bit.
Wow.
My mother and my parents saw them get put up. So they're not historical. They're just there to antagonize. I mean, first of all, they're the losers. Like, who puts a trophy? That's like okay.
And see, that's another thing that to me, they actually lost their fight. So
yeah, they were only around 5 years. That's like literally the Warriors putting up a LeBron statue in front of the Oracle. He didn't win. He lost. You don't get to celebrate losing. You don't get to be on the losing side of something and then say, yeah, we still celebrate in its history. History will be remembered without the statues. And that's the thing. Germany has not one swastika publicly displayed. And that was a big part of their history. Not one of them publicly
And you know
displayed
why?
because it's illegal.
No, they're ashamed.
They're ashamed. And it's
Why
illegal.
aren't we ashamed?
Because America. We're not ashamed of shit.
I want to touch on, only because I know we've only got you for a couple minutes, and then we'll probably break after this real quick. Because me and Ronnie have had the debate, so I want you to stay true to it as well, Ronnie. Since we're talking about that, where we started talking about the Kaepernick thing, and why Kaepernick has to pick during the Star Spangled Banner.
You want me to tell my opinion?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, once again, maybe it's just me being completely naive, okay? I know why he's kneeling, and I 100% agree with him, okay? And like I told him, I'd rather see him do it in the middle of the fucking football game. I'd rather see him go out in the first quarter and kneel and stop the whole fucking game. My thing is, and I'm not saying they're protesting the military. I'm not saying they're protesting the national anthem. That's not what I'm saying, like everyone's trying to say. But my thing is, why does he have to do it in the middle of the national anthem?
Why not? The question you're asking is the wrong question. It's
Right, so explain it to me.
Why is he doing it? It's not when. Here's the thing. As black people, we'll tell you, we have learned that there is no right time for us to discuss race.
Okay.
We can't march peacefully. We march peacefully. Martin Luther King marched peacefully across the Petty Bridge. It was
Right.
Pettis Bridge.
Yeah.
Peacefully. You know, the sheriff decided, nah, we're not getting to the other side, and literally launched an assault on them. Peacefully marching.
Right.
So then we get to the 60s and 70s when we got more radicals and we got the Black Panthers who walk into the Capitol with guns, and then the laws on gun control change in the state because they don't want Negroes walking around with guns being able to defend themselves. We don't want that. You know what I mean? So it's never a good time for us to protest. As you've heard from what's happening in these protests, I understand, remember, why they have to protest like this. There's no right way, wrong way to protest. It's a protest. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable.
And that's my question, and that I understand. But like my question is like me and you. If we're as a nurse, if we can't protest our job, we can't protest things like that. And we'd be fired, we'd be terminated.
He's not protesting his job.
But I'm saying but he is at work when he's doing
But here's
it.
the thing. Let me break it down for you like this. You cannot compare an NFL career to any job on earth.
No.
It's not the same. Colin Kaepernick, from the age of 7 years old, has played football. He's played football through high school. He has sacrificed his body, his time with his family. He has given so much to get to a level where only how many NFL players in the league at one time? 200. 200 people in this elite league, and of those 200 people, only 11 at a time get to start. He led a team. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like.
So if it's so important to him, why didn't he do it when he was a starter making big money? Why
didn't you feel it the same way back then? Everybody grows. You didn't know things at a certain time. Mm-hmm. He was in a different mindset.
I don't think he wanted to do it until he didn't want to jeopardize his job or anything.
No, it's not about it. But he lost his job.
Did you ever listen to him?
On what?
On why he did it.
Yes. But why did he wait and do it after he wasn't starting anymore?
Why did you realize Trump was a bad guy after you voted for him?
Because I heard a lot of the stuff he did, yeah.
That's
You
what
didn't
happens.
know.
You learn.
He grows.
Okay.
That was a misconception. People were, Cap was trying to protect his job, or he wasn't a great starter, and this and that. Which is
No, it has nothing to do with whether he was a good starter or not. To me, it's the fact that he didn't do it when he was starting. He waited till he became a backup, is what I'm saying.
Well, he didn't have a choice in that.
And I have a
There was
problem.
an incident that led him to that, right? It was probably Eric Gardner or some shit that.
And I have a problem with the football league because it's like 70% African American, right?
Okay.
So this is my problem. And I say this about women voting too. Women, if they want, they have 53% of the voting populace. If women want better rights, better things, if they all showed up and vote, they could run this country. They
voted for Trump.
But I'm just saying, they could pick who they wanted to. To me, what all the black athletes need to do, 70-something%, is they need to say 50% of the coaches need to be black, 50% of this needs to be black, or we ain't playing.
Well, that's fine, but what's going to happen is, being that it's such a small percentage of people that get in. You know how many players are sitting at home right now waiting for them to strike, waiting for them to go on strike so they can get their shot.
Right.
It's different.
But you're talking about when's it a good time?
It's different than being, like I said, NFL career is not a job. You're talking about something you've sacrificed your whole life to get to. And if you quit this job or you say, we're not going to play this job, you're easily replaced. There's someone right behind you all times.
Yeah.
This is a very competitive league where,
But
like you talking about Kaepernick.
To me, you're making my argument for me that Kaepernick didn't do that until he became a backup.
I'm not making an argument because we don't know why Kaepernick. You're assuming why he did it. You're putting your presumptions and your perceptions on him because you feel he did it only because. But that's not the case. Everybody does things in their own time. People grow at different moments. You grew at a different moment to see things different than you saw before.
Right.
Kaepernick, probably, here's the thing. As most black men, we become radicalized as soon as we have an incident with the
Explain
police.
this.
Basically, when you are a 14-year-old kid and you get a gun put in your face by a grown-ass man who then grabs you by your throat and holds that gun to you because he's scared of you, you like, fuck this. I'm not going to be scared again. Fuck these people. I'm going to fight back. And I guarantee you, Colin had an incident where it was actually an incident. It was somebody that came into his life. His girlfriend came into his life and said, you have a platform and you can use it.
Yep.
He didn't know he could use the platform because he was falling in line with everything else the NFL tells you. Shut up, play. Shut up and play. Shut up and play. And she said, you can actually do this. And he did. He saw him. Look at the power he has. Now the NFL is, we're sorry. We did. You know what I mean? It's,
No, look at the power it had globally. There's cops kneeling now.
Yeah.
There's doctors kneeling now. They're kneeling in Japan, Tokyo, around the world. So Cap's simple gesture is translated across the world.
simple gesture.
So it is still not about when he started or him trying to do it when he's a backup and all that. You know what I'm saying? Do you really get what I'm saying? They're kneeling. You see them kneeling around the world?
I understand the message and I think it's great. And to me, but my only issue that and like you said, maybe I'm just not getting it.
You're not getting it.
I know.
You're not getting it.
You're
Okay,
focusing on something
But
that's
I'm just
not
saying,
the
I'm
case.
just saying, I'd rather see them stop the whole football game than do it during the national anthem.
Why is it? Why is it?
Wait, stop.
Because I want to know
Everybody.
his answer on, but why is it? Because
God, I wish I could
you
really
feel
tell you.
like he's disrespecting
You have
the
to
anthem.
use-
Otherwise, it wouldn't matter when the fuck he's kneeling.
I mean, or police should just stop killing black people. That could happen, and we wouldn't have to kneel. And
Right,
nobody would
right,
get upset about
yeah.
anything.
Why don't we just treat people equal?
Why
Right.
don't we? Yeah, but that's not going to happen. So we have to keep
You
kneeling.
have two ex-military guys sitting there, and I would rather not get bottles thrown at me while I'm in uniform. I would rather people from, let's say, the Philippines.
And just so you know, that disgusts me that happened to you.
Okay, but I'm trying to make my point. I would rather people in the Philippines not look at me, this is a true story, as, oh, you're not that bad of a guy. Well, how'd you think I would be? Oh, like Denzel on Training Day. We thought that's how all black people are. You see what I'm saying? This is stamp that we got on us, this invisible stamp that we're bad people. So I don't care about kneeling.
Yeah.
And technically, when we kneel, it's for the fallen. That's why Cap was doing it. I've kneeled for a ton of my soldiers that went down.
Actually,
Now, see, I understand. Now that I can understand more. That I understand. You know, but to me, if it has anything to do with like protesting the inequality for the blacks, to me, why would you do that during the national anthem?
Because we're all Americans.
and we don't get treated like
That flag, what is that, the American flag? Does it just stand for white people?
You know, are you guys familiar with he's a
Wait, can you answer my question?
yeah, well, I'm going to. The gentleman that he's a black, he played for the Raiders, Charles Woodson.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Woodson put it the best I ever heard, and I'm gonna butcher it, but there was a white guy on a panel and he told the guy, that's your flag, that's not my flag. He said the guy that made that flag had slaves. And when he talks about freedom, he's not talking about my freedom, he's talking about his freedom and all the other whites' freedom. He explained it great. You know, do you understand what I'm saying? And
I do, but do you?
Yes, I do.
I'm the one that gets it. So
I do, and I'm not
you
saying.
get it.
like I say, I'm not, I hope I'm not coming across disrespectful in any way. I just wish there was a way we could do it other than the national anthem as
I
well.
wish I could walk down the street and not get called
No,
and get
yes,
judged
yes,
by my color.
Yo, it's your boy Charlie Murphy, my main man, Rick James. That's the one you think, the comedian Rick James. Get up on him.